President Trump is lashing out at the whistleblower and their sources, comparing the complaint to treason now that its release seems to be speeding up the formal impeachment inquiry.
I want to know who's the person that gave the whistleblower, who's the person that gave the whistleblower the information? Because that's close to a spy. You know what we used to do in the old days when we were smart, right? The spies and treason, right? We used to handle it a little differently than we do now.
All right, so what's being done to protect the whistleblower? I'm joined by Jesselyn Radack. She's one of the top attorneys on this issue. She's represented multiple whistleblowers, including Edward Snowden. Jesselyn, thanks for being with us. I just want to parse what we just played there, because that one's really stuck in my mind. Talk to me about whistleblowers as traitors, whistleblowers as almost spies.
Well, I myself, when I blew the whistle, was accused of being a traitor, a turncoat, and a terrorist sympathizer. Most of my clients, some of the ones who are most known, like Edward Snowden and Thomas Drake, John Kiriakou, and Reality Winner, have been accused of being traitors. It's an incredibly incendiary label to hurl at someone who basically is guilty only of committing the truth. I would also say that whistleblowers seem to be damned if they do and damned if they don't go through internal channels. The whistleblowers I mentioned earlier are often faulted for going directly to the press and not having gone through proper channels.
So that's why we build proper channels, right? That's the whole point of the whole thing, is that if you build proper channels, then somebody doesn't actually feel the need to go to the press.
Right, that's the way it should work in theory, but over and over we see these channels either at best accomplish nothing or at worst be used as tools of retaliation against the whistleblower, or in this case we just see them being short-circuited basically. At a certain point they worked well until they didn't. They worked at the initial stages, but then you have an end run and the insertion of political steps into what's supposed to be a formulaic
Let's just
process.
work through this a little bit. I hope my boss isn't watching this, but if I were a whistleblower and I lodged a complaint with my organization about my boss, and then everybody's treating it properly and giving me the necessary confidentiality, but the thing's about my boss. And ultimately, the person with whom I lodged that complaint, this is how this played out for this particular whistleblower, it got to the boss. It got to the person about who the complaint was, Donald Trump in this case. And obviously, things are going to fizzle out. I mean, in most, I would say 9 out of 10 cases, it's going to fizzle out at that point, because the boss is not going to say, this is fantastic. Give them all the necessary protection so they can continue discussing this issue.
Well, I would emphasize that is why anonymity is so important. Most people are not blowing the whistle for fame or profit or revenge, but rather because they have seen fraud, waste, abuse, or in this case, illegality that borders on high crimes and misdemeanors. So it's important to have that anonymity, and the fact that details about this whistleblower have been leaking out is incredibly chilling for all whistleblowers. We all have a First Amendment right to go to the Congress, and here someone has followed the procedures that were particularly set up to keep them safe and to make their disclosures effective, and that is being undermined.
Jesselyn Radack, thank you for joining me. Jesselyn Radack is the Director of Source Protection for Expose Facts and an attorney who's represented multiple whistleblowing cases, including Edward Snowden. Thank you.